There is so much to be said about Jordan Peterson's appearance on Jubilee to debate 20 atheists. Why Jordan instead of a theist with deep conviction of the truth of a God's existence?
So do you believe in the all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good notion of God?
What do you mean by believe?
And why would he not provide any answers for the challenges put forward to him by his opposition?
More accurate.
Because we're social animals and we need to be...
Yeah, but there's more to it than that.
Is there?
I happen to like Peterson quite a bit, and as you can detect from my tone, I found his performance very frustrating. But what he did provide was several very important motions for debate, particularly this one.
Morality and purpose cannot be found within science.
Something we talk about a lot on this channel is moral relativism and subjectivity.
Good is a point of view, Anakin.
And I really wish that we could bring back C.S. Lewis from the dead to have sat in Jordan Peterson's place on Jubilee. Now, Lewis's most famous book, not The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but Mere Christianity, tackles every one of Jordan Peterson's prompts head on, especially the question of morality as prescribed by a higher power versus morality acquired through evolution as a means of survival, which the atheists in the debate curiously labeled as empathy. Now, this debater cuts straight to the point. Is our morality made up as a matter of convenience in order to survive and get along with other human beings?
So we know that at some level, early in our evolutionary history, we actually developed altruism. We have examples of chimpanzees who actually have a basic understanding of fairness. Yep. We are social animals, and we need that to exist as a group.
Lewis framed this as the moral law versus herd instinct, conceding that we are social creatures and we do certain things and refrain from other things in order to enjoy certain benefits. But he says that herd instinct can point in two different directions on single matters. Suppose you hear a cry for help from a man in danger. You probably will feel two desires. One, a desire to give help due to herd instinct and evolutionary processes, and the other, a desire to keep out of danger, evolutionary instinct for self-preservation. But you will find inside you, in addition to these two impulses, a third thing, which tells you that you ought to follow the impulse to help and suppress the impulse to run away.
Wait, sir! Sir, open the gate, please! 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 Bloody hell.
Lewis goes on to liken our existence as human beings to performing classical music. We have in front of us a sheet of music telling us to play one note and not another, and that our instincts are merely to play the keys. No key on the piano is right or wrong. However, certain keys can be right or wrong based on playing them at the wrong time.
I could believe it is the case that this pen exists, but if someone threatened my life, right, I would lie in order to be able to save my life, right? I think you would do that too. You wouldn't lie to save your life?
Don't be so sure.
You wouldn't lie to save your life?
I didn't lie to save my career. I didn't lie to save my clinical practice.
Would you lie to save your children, your mom, your dad?
I don't think lying would save them.
Can there ever be a circumstance logically that lying could save someone?
Yeah, and if you're steeped in sin, you're likely to live in circumstances like that.
And I think that will ring true to most people. In this scenario of a person crying for help, you don't know what lies there in the darkness, and your evolutionary instincts or your herd instincts might guide you towards courage, and it might guide you towards self-preservation and just looking out for yourself. But they don't account for that third thing, which is what Jordan Peterson says is God, which is conscience.
Cardinal Newman, who defined God as conscience.
And that is one way to look at it, that there's something else at play here besides biology. The debater went down this road by asking Jordan Peterson if he would lie to the Nazis in order to save a Jew hiding in his attic.
In Nazi Germany, and it is the case that there's Jewish people in your attic and you're trying to protect them,
example.
Would you lie to the Nazis?
I would have done everything I bloody well could so I wouldn't be in that situation to begin with. It's a hypothetical, and it's not answerable.
Hypotheticals?
Jordan Peterson very strangely hid from this hypothetical and refused to answer, versus ranking goods and bads within a moral framework.
I just told you I would do everything that I could to make sure that I'm never in that situation. By the time you've got there, you've made so many mistakes that there's nothing you can do that isn't a sin.
being born in Nazi Germany and trying to protect people that you care about. Like,
with something listed as the highest good. The person was asking him whether or not lying is a sin or lying is morally wrong, and it is. And then he wouldn't say an instance in which he would lie for a virtuous purpose, which, if you believe that there is a God, a creator of the universe, you would probably list the preservation of human life as the highest good, especially if it is lying to a killer who wants to snuff out human life. This isn't a perfectly satisfying answer for the Jubilee motion, but it's better than whatever Peterson was doing here, litigating the meaning of filler words and trying to get people caught in vocabulary quandaries.
Purpose can't be found in science. Actually,
No, within science. What do you mean by believe?
Higher power, it's driven on our experiences
Define
as
higher.
humans.
Something that comes up often in this debate is that morality has evolved to fit human beings' needs and conventions of the time. Okay, that's true. Morality in society has evolved over time, but the debaters are flattening the entire human race into one collective tribe as if the Chinese social morality is the same in 2025 as the American morality. This is where we get to moral relativity and evolution. C.S. Lewis was writing at the time of Nazism's rise and fall, and so he reminds us that progress means not just changing, but changing for the better. If no set of moral ideas were truer or better than any other, there would be no sense in preferring Christian morality to Nazi morality. The moment you say that one set of moral ideas can be better than another, you are in fact measuring them both by a standard. And what is the standard? And so he identifies real morality as a distinct thing from social morality, which is a byproduct of cultural change and evolution. I think that what these debaters are doing is conflating morality with rules of decent behavior, to borrow another C.S. Lewis category. The subject of slavery comes up, because it always has to, and it's referring to an evolving social morality around the practice that the Western world has mostly evolved on, with the exception of outsourcing slave labor to Asia.
The Bible, it talks a lot about slavery, right?
Yes.
Yes. So in that, it teaches you how to take care of a slave, rather than saying slavery is wrong. Isn't
Well,
that immoral? Wouldn't you say that culturally we've evolved as a species, as he said earlier about empathy?
It reminds me a lot of Mere Christianity's distinction between morality informed by fact versus morality informed by fiction. The witch trials of England and the American colonies is referenced in Mere Christianity. Christians were burning men and women alive and hanging them en masse on accusations of witchcraft and being involved with Satan. A Christian and believer in morality cannot defend this, unless their understanding of the situation is that a group of people had sold themselves to the devil and received supernatural powers from him in order to kill their neighbors and drive them mad or bring about bad weather. If this were true, as C.S. Lewis notes, the death sentence may well fit into a moral framework of justice and protecting the innocent. But this was not true. It was a factual error and human beings' misunderstanding of the world that they lived in. Human beings, I might add, who were far more evolved and culturally sophisticated than those in the Bronze Age or the Neanderthals. There's also a new book out right now by author Andrew Klavan, who works with Peterson at the Daily Wire, in which he says, I have read atheist thinkers who believe they can construct a moral system on evolutionary imperatives or the good of society or game theory to avoid mutual destruction, but none of them can explain why I should care about the good of society or the destruction of others or anything besides my own pleasure if there is not a consciousness of absolute good towards which my consciousness naturally yearns. He's saying exactly what C.S. Lewis would say, that there is always this whisper inside of us asking more of us or directing us towards something else besides getting along with our neighbors or doing what is good for us as a social convention. This was a big missed opportunity by Peterson to offer the kind of defense of a natural law and morality that is so strongly in question every single day in the modern world. We have scientists who still insist that ethics are holding back progress. We still have racialists who are attempting to reorder social morality around victor-oppressor classifications. And these atheist debaters insist that empathy is some kind of progress engine or particularly evident today versus 200 years ago. And anyone who has lived online or in the comments section knows that our evolution is veering toward more dehumanization as a matter of convenience thanks to technology. And Jordan Peterson just kind of punted on all of this. He didn't take an opportunity to actually engage with his own debate prompts with these atheist debaters. It didn't really move the needle at all in favor of a creator or natural law, which is really what he was contesting here, that evolution and science can't explain everything, and that the atheists should perhaps consider that there is something else out there that is more complicated and still more unknown that underpins all their assumptions about the universe. You can find some more on this channel about Star Wars and moral relativism, and especially the objectivity of good versus evil as seen in Star Wars: The Acolyte.
What do you want?
Freedom. The freedom to wield my power the way I like.
I think you'll find those videos worth your time. In the meantime, I will be on Jubilee next week, June 1st, for a middle ground debate on Elon Musk. So keep an eye out for that. It should be pretty entertaining. And tell us what you think in the comments section about morality as objective versus being a byproduct of evolution. We would love to hear what you think. Bye.